Welcome, Wanderer. We finally get some news from the Diablo 4 devs. The problem? The whole thing is 1 hour and 43 minutes long, which made me wrap the interesting points together with timestamps so you can check it out yourself. And we're going to talk about the interesting stuff and give an opinion on was this good, bad, ugly, and why are you still not giving us the Paladin, goddamn Jesus Christ. The first part is about the monster changes in Season 11, making the game more challenging and unpredictable. By adding more monster affixes, by making elites just have more abilities. Sometimes they even have 6 or 7. They're supposed to reposition themselves and attack different. However, all these changes to monsters seem to be changes for the sake of change, because they're not making the game more unpredictable or challenging. And you certainly don't notice a difference in monster behavior. You're walking in with your ability, you nuke them all, and then you pass onwards. What's happening right now is that a lot of the new monster affixes are annoying and super stupid. They make them unstoppable. And unstoppable kind of denies, like, I don't know, 30% of your multipliers, while other affixes just straight up feel like they nuke you, especially since the new toughness defense system is not really working. You could consider this more challenging and unpredictable, but to be fair, the whole change seems to just be in for change and not actually making the game a better player experience. Then we're going over to a change in difficulty in general, and that comes down to the zero to hero journey of changing the healing and also the skill points, that we're from now on starting with one single skill point instead of the 12 skill points that we've been having all the time with our renown. I will say that this change is actually a good one. It's fun to again start with just one skill point and then go through the seasonal ranks to earn them back. It gives you that zero to hero feeling, especially since your alts, your secondary characters, they will then still start with the 12 skill points. But as you start the season, it feels like a real season start. You start from zero to hero, living the power fantasy. This does make the game more challenging than any of these weird ass monster changes, if I'm honest with you. And it does add to the fun of the game. This is actually not a detrimental thing. It doesn't even slow the game down. It just gives you more of a path to walk along. That can be enjoyable. Now with the changes to the healing system and the toughness stat, it's really torn. Because instead of having you need 1,000 armor and 75 resistance, we have this weird system of the more armor you get, the better it is, but the more armor you have, the less amazing it is. And the more defense you have, the kind of like, problem is, my toughness value is sometimes at 3 million, especially if I have barrier activated, and then I still get one shot. But if my toughness is at 100,000, I don't get one shot. What does that mean? What is toughness even doing at this point? Before we had a system where it was get 1,000 armor and we're done. Get 75 resistance and we're done. If they make the toughness system clearer, it could be good. But at the current way it stands, it's just like attack power showing how strong your character is, while attack power doesn't actually show how strong your character is, because my Necromancer with 1,000 attack power does 3 trillion damage onto the minions, while my Druid also with 10,000 attack power for some reason does trillions too. Yeah, and then my Barbarian with 1,000,000 attack power does barely billions of damage. Make it make sense. These numbers are obviously just there for beginner players to get a feeling. But if these numbers don't say anything, then why even have them? Next big game point was the game progression with Capstone dungeons and season ranks. Now, they feel that removing the Capstone dungeons was bad. More people liked them than hated them, and that reintroducing them is important. However, they completely missed the mark with that, because the real fun with Capstone dungeons was doing them early. So you needed to do the Capstone dungeon to go to World Tier 2 and World Tier 3, and so on. And you did the Capstone dungeon early. Right? I usually have to do the Capstone dungeon at level 35, and I did it with level 20 because I could. And I could early jump into the higher world tier to get more experience. The same goes for the next Capstone dungeon. That's how it used to be. Now we have Capstone dungeons level gated to 30 and so on, but I'm not going to do the Capstone dungeon early because the gear that drops is level 30 gear, and I could anyways jump into a higher difficulty for more XP. So I only have to do a Capstone dungeon to progress my seasonal rank. But it would be better to do this with level 30 or even 35, so I'm faster through the Capstone dungeon without a challenge. and then I progress my seasonal rank and I don't slow down my leveling. And this goes on and on for every Capstone dungeon. I don't have to challenge myself to achieve anything. Actually, challenging myself in this case, by doing them early, only slows me down and is annoying. It's a roadblock, a cock block. It doesn't make you faster, right? Therefore, the new Capstone system is fine that it's back. However, you're never going to do it for the feeling of accomplishing something. It's more like a chore to improve your seasonal rank. And that's something they have to work on. I don't know, by dynamically shifting the difficulty or something. Whereas the seasonal rank itself is actually good. They're talking about removing bad friction and creating good friction. Now, the seasonal rank is a bit in between both. We need the seasonal rank to gain back our skill points, paragon points, we get cool equipment pieces, and that kind of stuff. The seasonal rank is definitely better than the seasonal journey, because I didn't care about the seasonal journey, apart from the spark for my mythic item. I mostly did it at the end of the season, right? For the reward, for the pad. Now with the season rank and the season journey being tied together, you can have a reason to actually pay attention to it because it makes you stronger, aka good friction. Now the thing is, it's good friction for season 11, for the first season. I'm not sure how good it's going to be for the future of the game to do it over and over and over and over again. Still, it's binding back to the zero to hero journey of really giving us a fun experience. So I think it's going to stay good friction. Whereas actually the Capstone dungeon in this case, though, are bad friction, as we talked about just a second earlier. An interesting talking point was the team is open to adding rotating new capstones in the future. It'd be somewhat nice to not have to do the same, because the actual boss fights in the Capstone dungeons were fun. We get boss fights from the Dark Citadel that some people might have never seen, especially if you don't have the expansion. So making rotating different Capstone dungeons to give us more like the Nightmare dungeon rotation, why not? Does not remove the problematic of how they are actually positioned into the game, but at least the act of having to do the chore becomes more manageable. Big follow-up point, doors, chat. Doors can be frustrating, and they're planning to make them open faster or have you just straight up phase through them. Maybe just remove all the doors, to be honest, because they don't do anything. In the vault-like buildings, they're just straight up annoying. I mean, watching that turning circle and then make the door go down, And in those burned out dungeons where we have wooden doors while everything is burning around you, just remove doors. Probably would take too long, too much development effort. So they're going to go for like a skeleton key solution where we phase through doors. Lazy. Yeah. Good. What about tempering and masterworking? Tempering isn't a good spot. We can choose what we want. We just tempered on an item, done. However, only having one temper affix is bad because it's taking a lot of additive damage away. That makes it extremely weaker. The choice between utility and damage is somewhat harsh for a lot of classes, and it really takes tons of additive damage away from certain builds, straight up making them unviable. For the masterworking system itself, there has been a lot of discussion because the old system was bad, but the new system is also bad. It's a little bit too deterministic. It's too easy to just upgrade your item 20 times and then get a 1 out of 5 upgrade to a greater affix. Whereas the greater affix improvement is not as good as the old system would like to be. However, what we were asking for is, could we just reset from 12 times Masterwork to 8 or to 4, and then Masterwork up again to get our triple hit? Problem was that the developers feel like it's too easy then. It's a 1 out of 5, right? I reset down from 12 to 8, then upgrade again, 1 out of 5 to get what I want, then reset down from 12 to 8, 1 out of 5 to get what I want. Now we pretty much have the same system though, because we upgrade 20 times, and then we still have a 1 out of 5 to get what we want, correct? The problem is that 1 out of 5 is not as good as in the old system, because we cannot improve existing greater affixes. If I have 4 ranks to core skills with a greater affix, it will always be 4 ranks to core skills. Whereas in the old system, it could be 8 or 9 ranks to core skills, which is friendly spoken amazing and build enabling and super fun and really exciting. Whereas the new system has 0 exciting outcomes. It's 20 times button press, then maybe a greater affix, and you're like, woo, woo. In the old system, you were like, I hit a triple. Wow, I'm so good at the game. We need a middle ground between the two systems. They're trying to create more dopamine and excitement, but to be fair, completely failed. Yes, tempering is good, but it's more like I get always what I want right now. So the dopamine isn't really there anymore, and the excitement is gone too. However, that's what we wanted for tempering, which means that the masterworking needs to be that dopamine and excitement giving system, because it can't be sanctification since that could possibly brick your item. They quickly glossed over Tower and Leaderboards, where Tower and Leaderboards are currently in beta, and they should be considered beta because, well, they're fairly extremely basic. Tower is meant to be the competitive mode, right? They really want Tower to be that way, and they want the pit where people try out builds and see what you can actually do. Now, I'm not against the Tower. People can have fun with this if they wish to, if they made a strong build and then want to see what can I do. The thing is that unless your build is super maxed out, absolutely brought to the end game, probably RMT'd a couple of items from Chinese players, why even bother with the Tower? Because you're not even going to compete anyways. And that's what the next point kind of covers, because developers are aware of the RMT issue, and they are aware that people are asking for solo self-found. And I'll be fair with you, the only way how a leaderboard ever becomes interesting is solo self-found. Because otherwise, it's just simply down to who has the biggest wallet, who is the biggest Chinese trader, who duplicated the most items if there's another duplication glitch, right? The leaderboard loses all kind of meaning, and it just becomes beat it with your wallet. Whereas in solo self-found, even as the standard normal player, even as Frank from the steel mill with his 12 kids, if you find a great unique item, 2 or 3 trader affixes, and then the maxed out aspect, you could actually compete. Pulverized Druid, finally finding a really good Rotten Lightbringer, you finding a triple greater affixed Air of Perdition, whatever, you could actually compete. This competition doesn't exist in a world where everyone can just trade for everything. And I could just buy 10 billion golds, 99 billion gold from the internet, and then trade for the items I need to dominate the leaderboard. So yeah, Soul Self-Out would go a real long way, and they are considering it. They are having an eye on it. I'm very happy to hear that. A general shout out to Design Philosophie. They're not trying to be Diablo 3 or Diablo 2. They like to take parts from these games, they borrow them to make Diablo 4 a better experience, but they really don't want to drift into that direction. As people like to say, we are Diablo 3.5, Diablo 3.25 with every update, right? We're going closer in that direction. However, I still feel like that Diablo has its own identity, and they should certainly look more at other ARPGs, asynchronous trading, Diablo 4 wink wink. Yes, I just said solo self-found, but I also do want to have asynchronous trading, right? I want to be able to trade inside the game and not go for a third-party trading website. Console players would love it. So yeah, but please do look at other ARPGs too, not only at Diablo 2 and 3, and learn from them. Don't be too cocky. You're not too good at what you're doing. I'm sorry, Diablo 4 devs, right? You need all the help you can get. Generally speaking, their design philosophy is an iterative process. They're trying to go step by step through the game and see systems that need refining, improve them to make a more enjoyable player experience. Some of these changes, though, are just for the sake of changes. I mean, refining mechanics such as the defensive system to create a more enjoyable experience, where the defensive system rework makes it not more enjoyable, it makes it worse. Down the line, maybe, once you fine-tuned it. But sometimes there are just too many changes, and it actually pushes people away. We just had Season 10, which was amazing, and then Season 11 seems like, well, that's not too good, is it? My biggest problem is, the goal is to make Diablo 4 bigger over time, and they just reiterated on Nightmare Dungeons and Inferno Hordes to flesh them out and make them cooler, which is amazing. Yep, thank you very much. But that shouldn't be a season, right? Fixing Nightmare Dungeons and Inferno Hordes should be something you do. You just do. You just make them better. You just fix a system that's objectively bad. But you don't call that Season 10. You don't call that Season 11. Fixing your own game, fixing your past mistakes, is not new content. That's part of the new content. And then you still bring out massive new content that's an actual season. This is a little bit the travesty of Diablo 4, that fixing content has become the excuse for new seasons. Season of Loot Reworked, or Loot Reborn, right? Then we get Season 6, which actually brought meaningful changes, which really revamped the game, and that was something big. Also, introducing Bartok was kind of cool. But at the end of the day, it was often just, we're fixing the game, we're actually fixing the game, and we are actually fixing the game, instead of introducing real, new, cool, interesting things. Especially since then, these interesting things like chaotic armors are gone at the end of the season. And you're like, but developers, the chaotic armor was one of the single-handed best things you've ever made in this game. What are you doing? Which we have here in the next point, season mechanics and content, where they're going on about 2 design ways. Things that immediately impact the game and things that impact the game long-term, core mechanic changes. Where Actually, Colin said a sentence. Chaotic armor might make the game boring and bland over time. And I'll be honest, no, it won't. There are some things that the game has had. For example, the Horadric jewels that should have been in the game because current gem systems are boring and bland. Horadric jewels were interesting. Obviously, you might have to temper them down value-wise. To not have minions gain 50% more damage, make it 10. But even if my minions gain 10% more damage, it's still more interesting than slotting a diamond into my ring, right? So they're missing kind of the mark with making meaningful core mechanics. Every single season should have a splinter of something that stays in the game. And we're not talking about keeping Bartek, right? We're not talking about the Infernal Hordes now being forever the Infernal Hordes, or us having Horadric strong rooms and no one actually being interested in them anymore. Because we still have Horadric strong rooms, and you can still do a Nightmare Dungeon escalation. But other content is just better, so you're not doing it. I avoid the strong rooms. If the Horadric jewels were still in a base core mechanic, then it would actually make sense, and you would look forward to do those. So they're kind of missing the mark on what they're saying themselves, right? We need immediate impact. Yes, we need some seasonal board power. We're not mad about that. But we also need more things that stay in the game. Because right now I'm looking fun back to a lot of stuff that happened in the game. And I know it will never come again. And that's frustrating as hell. Now we get balancing and expanding game content, where some players had concerns about the new expansion. Should you even buy it? The developers try to reassure that it's definitely worth it, and that with all the new things that are coming, it's going to be amazing. Definitely not Paladin, though. We'll get to that later. And we're definitely not getting some kind of raid content. So don't worry. You're not being forced to party. They're trying to upgrade the existing content and put more things in that are similar to what we have already, right? There's more endgame coming, but I wouldn't expect anything groundbreaking. But I'll be honest, I'm happy for no raid content because I play Diablo 4 alone, maybe with 1-2 other people, but I certainly don't want to play with 10 people. I mean, the Dark Citadel's in the game and everyone ignores it. They are, though, working to balance the game by removing unnecessary power and focusing on creating meaningful choices. With the meaningful choices, we're talking about giving you the option to actually choose aspects over uniques and uniques over aspects, and not just presenting you with this is the best. Sometimes you just think like the Air of Perdition, and that is obviously the best, no matter what you're actually doing, no matter what other stuff you have. If you have an Air of Perdition, it will make your build better. That is not a meaningful choice in that regard, because once you have the Air of Perdition, no matter what you find, it goes out of the window. That's so good, because at some point with a mythic item, the meaningful choice would be using the mythical item, because it's, from a rarity standpoint, should be that powerful. It's not unnecessary power. But this unnecessary power, or meaningful, non-meaningful choice, happens sometimes at the aspect or unique level, where it's just like, this unique just invalidates everything else. Doesn't matter if you have a 4 greater affix item with a max rolled aspect, it will never compete with that one item that comes into that spot. And they're trying to give us more choice in that regard. There's a short mention of the skill tree and reworking it. Not much though, because most of this will probably come with the expansion, whenever the expansion is going to come. The skill tree is considered the foundation of a build, but it currently doesn't provide a broad enough foundation for builds. And I fully agree with this, especially when it comes down to the key passives, because you want to choose your key passive and it should be an absolute transformative thing to do, and not just like, I get 50% more damage. For minions, for example, that I have to take an aspect to get more minions, instead of the actual key passive, the one thing for minions to provide me with more minions. Seems kind of weird. The same actually goes for just improving minion damage multipliers instead of providing me with more minions through the skill tree. Like, I am skilling into minions, I'm trying it. Yet though I have to choose my items to do this, and I can't have that through my meaningful foundational choices for my build. Let's have a look at the roadmap and future plans. Obviously, the roadmap is subject to change because people are talking to them and they're listening. At least they're saying that they're listening. I'm looking at you, Kazamir, because you don't seem to be listening. The Paragon system can be tedious to undo and maybe preventing players from switching archetypes. Yes, because right now you can reset all, which is good. Yeah, thank you. But I sometimes just want to reset a board. I don't know how planners in the internet make it able for me to just reset one board instead of resetting all at the same time, but in-game it's completely impossible. That would be nice to make just flying around in the Paragon system better. I think the system itself is fine so far. The 5 boards are okay. I still wish we had more meaningful Paragon nodes or more boards to choose from. Because right now I have one minion board for skeletons in Necromancer, and then I have to take all the other shit boards. I don't even have a full corpse. Like, I want 5 different corpse boards. I want 5 different werebear boards. I want 5 different poison boards for rogue, you know? Each P passive, each archetype should have multiple boards and not just one. It's actually sad that we're 2 years into the game and you have like 10 boards to choose from. But these 10 boards are like, there's one for each archetype, and then you're just like generic board X, generic board Z. I want to make a bleed barb, so I want to choose more bleed boards. Not just that one board that works with bleed. Give us more choice, please. Then Rex asked the question, is Diablo coming? Where is he? And I'm going to say, why are you asking this, Rex? Did you not play the game? I know you haven't played the game very much recently, but you know that we're in the Mephisto arc. It's all about Mephisto, and Diablo's obviously in hell respawning right now. I mean, we killed him in Diablo 3, right? Recently. So he's dead. He's a greater evil. He's waiting to be unleashed again. And Mephisto's right now in the world probably making sure that they are able to come back in time. So I don't even know. Like, you played all these games. Why you're asking this question? You should have known better. So they're planning to definitely introduce Diablo down the line. And then the question about the Paladin arose. What's the next class? Where's the Paladin? Why is it not coming? And the developers pretty much brushed over it. They hesitant. They have no interest in Paladin at all, as it seems. They said we had the Crusader, that was fine, and we have Necromancers with shields that also wear plate armor. That's kind of Paladin. However, like, really, Paladin does not seem like something that is in anywhere close or ever coming. Maybe we get a priest, and I still would like a priest over a Paladin, which is kind of like a Paladin, but it's a priest. But yeah, I don't need a Paladin. All in all, the interview was fun to watch. It was interesting to get some insights into the developers' heads. However, some of the insights were baffling and truly like, what's going on, right? How can you be so tone deaf regarding some topics, especially calling unique items boring and bland down the line? Whereas you could have simply fixed this by saying you can only have 1 chaotic unique per character and not 4. And that would definitely fix the power curve right away and still allows for great build variety. And I could go on and on and on about this. What do you think? Are you going to watch the interview with the timestamps and drop some opinions below? Don't worry, I'll forward those things as well to Blizzard, as we have the Dark Line in the partner Discord and we can talk to them. So if you need to unload something from your chest, feel free to. We got you covered. Now, definitely watch this video or I'm going to hunt you in your dreams. And thanks for your attention.